Hey, everybody, welcome to the witching hour. Yes, the hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. We have some very special magic for you today. He is a witch, he is an author, he is a beloved friend, Mystic Dylan. You may have seen him once here before. Welcome, Mystic Dylan. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Patty.
You are amazing. You have very much traditional folk magic, blending with Cuban roots and all sorts of things. And you have a new book coming out just next month, right?
Yes.
Tell
Yes.
us. Tell us what you have.
It is called Swamp Sorcery. Um, and it's folk magic from America's southern wetlands. And I would say it's probably the my pride and joy. I've worked really hard on it. And it is an intro to it kind of gives you an overview of southern magic, southern conjure. People are familiar with terms like hoodoo and voodoo and 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 root work. And this book really puts it into uh perspective of what it is not, history, and then in the back of the book there are a lot of spells. So it's like half like historical intro and half grimoire.
Oh, that's beautiful. I can't wait. And again, I don't know a lot. We know both love and know Bloody Mary. She did
Of
your intro.
course,
She's one of your
yes.
teachers and mentors.
Yes.
Um, and that's not that kind of I'm not familiar with the swamp magic thing, so I'm excited to get it. It comes
Yeah.
just next month. I can't wait. Um, so now what okay, so say I'm going, oh, I want to get this book. I'm a practitioner or a magic, or I want to be. Some of the newbies out there like going, oh, but I don't live near any swamps.
Yes, no, and that's kind of why I wrote the book too, because I, obviously at heart it's the spirit of place. But in the book, I explained that you can acquire that energy just through either having certain objects or totems or working with familiar spirits, and then just applying that mindset into your day to day practice. So I have a few rituals where you kind of like connect with the spirit of swamp using the element of water, because that is kind of like the main conduit in swamp magic. It's water. So we talk about the importance of water, the importance of mud. Not saying that you have to get all muddy. And then we talk about like bones. So like connecting with the critters that you would find in the swamp, that can also be found out of the swamp, and using them as symbols or archetypes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
again, we know the world is crazy now, so we need all
Yes.
the help we can get. And to me, I like this because it's very. I'm not saying it's elemental magic, but it's getting us back to the land, a kind of
It
a
is.
grounding
It
thing.
is. And I think that, for the most part, what I as I went down the rabbit hole of like writing this book again and tapping into swamp magic again, I realized it really is, it's it brings spells and spell works where you don't have to spend, $175 on that sterling silver wand that you saw. I think it makes it a little more basic, like here we're utilizing, basic herbs like rosemary, or like tapping into things that we could find in our backyard, and just connecting with um the spirits of the earth, and I think when you look at magic from way back when, you realize that it was a little more basic. It may not be the right word, but I would say raw.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Connected, raw. I like that. So is that how you would describe your personal style of magic today? Or
Yeah. I've learned that there's like the high magic and low magic. High magic tends to be a little more ceremonial and ritualistic. Low magic sometimes is a little more like uh, bare and rugged, and I think that's how it is. Not everyone has time to cast a circle and call in the quarters, and sometimes you just need to get like a gator tooth and shove it in your pocket and hope that everything is going to go well.
yes, I'm with you. I am much more
Yeah.
into that low, do it, make it happen. Not too
Yeah.
over too planning.
Oh,
So has this always been your path? What is your kind of origin story? Have you always been a magician, magic, witchy, or connected to nature, or was this a discovery?
So I grew up, I was born in LA. I grew up in Florida. My grandmother is Cuban, and she had a house on a lake, and a lake connected straight to the Everglades. So during thunderstorms, sometimes we would get like alligators or hurricanes and manatees, and I think that connection to nature, I always have been fascinated by, like, the idea of fairies and spirits, my grandmother would read me these stories, and in Miami, we had something called little Botanicas, and they were, Spanish spiritual shops. And on the front, they seemed very Catholic and religious, but when you would go inside, they would sell herbs and tarot cards and crystals and amulets, and I remember going into these shops as a kid and being like, "There's something here." So, I got my first tarot deck when I was about 13. When I moved to LA, I literally was walking distance from the Bodhi tree.
Mm.
So I'd walk to the Bodhi tree as a kid with my mom. Um, and like, and then I moved again to Hollywood, and there was pan pipes.
Yep.
So I am fortunate that my honestly, I blame stores. It was these little stores that opened me up to this world, you know? And like you would walk into these shops, and I'll never forget like Vicky who owns pan pipes like walking
Hmm.
in, she was fixing a candle, and I must have been 14, 15, and I'm like, that's a witch. So yes, I like while I didn't necessarily like, my grandmother was into what she considered Catholicism. That was actually very magical because she would like dress a candle for Saint Anthony with herbs. And in my mind now, I'm like, girl, that was witchcraft.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. So yes, I would say, I was very fortunate to have parents that were uh spiritually like liberal. But I would say that my knowledge was cultivated by the shops that I would go into.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I was drawn to it. I had panpipes indeed. I had a cat in Long Beach when I was young, the
Oh my
area I grew
gosh,
up in.
I have the cat in Long Beach. Let me
Yeah.
tell you, there too as a kid. It's amazing.
I used to think that because I was born into Eye of the Cat and studied there, and then
Yeah.
moved to panpipes when I got to Hollywood. I used to think it was a requirement for an occult shop to have a stinky cat smell and a
Okay.
stinky cat.
Oh my god. Okay, can I also just say, so it always like bless his heart, but it smelled like cat pee.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I never knew if they were open because I feel like that's a standard of witch shops. Like we don't know what the store hours are. You're gonna go, maybe it'll be open, maybe it'll be closed. And yeah, I remember, and it was kind of dusty. Actually, when I was going through my stuff, I found a packet of Devil's Claw root from Pan Pipes, and I must not Pan Pipes, from Eye of the Cat, and I must have gotten that back in like 2000.
Yeah. No, I probably have stuff from there from way back when as well. It's
Yeah,
crazy. Since you are very like elemental and earthy in your work, how much do you notice the sense of place? Like we are both in the Southern California area now, as compared to say New Orleans, which we know is so magical, as
right.
compared to where you're from Florida. Do you think magic has to connect into the sense of place? Does that work for you?
I do, I do. I mean, I do feel like I kind of carry my magic with me. So like I would be like, for me to say like, oh, like I guess the landscape of California, I don't know that it shapes or affects my craft as much because I think I'm in my like I'm like this is my southern craft. This is where I am. But what I will say is that while I don't necessarily see differences, I see more similarities. So like where I lived in Miami, we didn't necessarily have ravens, but we had a lot of crows. So I find that
Mm.
that follows me here. So like where I live, um, where I'm here in Studio City, like randomly there are a lot of crows that like I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of crows here, but in my mind, I'm like, they followed me from Florida.
They don't. They told me they did. They're messengers.
Right?
They said they.
But also, like, raccoons. So, like, my grandmother, our trash, like, we had a king raccoon that stole all our trash. you would never think that you would see that in front of Studio City. And like I would say about 3 weeks ago, I saw like hugest raccoons. So like I do think sometimes the Florida and fauna connects. And to me, I'm like, oh well, these are the critters that I connected with here. I can find that there. And I guess I mentioned that in my book. It's like I feel like, for a witch from Ohio that wants to connect to Southern magic, you can find um this linear line through the flora and fauna because there's always going to be one thing that kind of like overlaps and connects.
I agree wholeheartedly. I agree, and they did follow you from Florida. I know
Thank
that.
you.
Uh, so again, this I love this book again because there's not a lot out like that. So what inspired you to write it? It's just because this is your practice, or what?
It's a little bit of that. And to be honest, Patty, I think it was kind of controversial. I think it was the gatekeeping that I saw online. A lot of people saying, you can't practice this. You can't do this. If you're not from the South, mind you, a lot of the people saying that were not from the South.
I
you
know
know,
the misappropriation thing and all that has gotten so out of.
it it's so it became so intense and like, I don't I really kind of stayed out of her for a long time. I bit my tongue. It wasn't my fight. And I was actually scared that like uh, any person who got any of the publishers were going to be like, "Oh, this is a taboo topic." But I was so lucky with Llewellyn that were like, "You know what? If you can provide the resources and you've lived here and you have the voice and the connections, go for it." So I was very fortunate. So I think it was that it was, instead of Becky, from, I don't know, somewhere far away, like Ohio, saying you can't
Right.
practice these practices and has never been to the South. I was like, what if I took, with my genealogy, my history, living in the South, studying this, and just kind of gave voice to that. So that really was it, because as a witch, like yes, southern conjure is part of my practice, but I lean into a bunch of other stuff too. But I was kind of tired of seeing practitioners being beaten down. And so I think I kind of went wholehearted. I was like, you know what? Here's the truth. This is the point. And the good thing is that it's not just, you know, me, a white boy, even though I'm half Cuban, but it's not just me being a white boy being like, you can practice this. I actually have the voices of, Denise Alvarado, who is a well-known practitioner, Bloody Mary, who is a fourth generation voodoo queen. So I have the voices of real practitioners also kind of speaking into this book.
I think that is beautiful. And yes, thank you for breaking those barriers or those supposed things because that does drive me crazy as well. So hopefully we're just getting past that.
I think
What
so too.
what do you think the biggest misconception is about this kind of work or what we do or what you do to either people within this community or who want to be, let alone people outside the world?
That it's dark, that it's dark. I think that's the biggest, people assume because as you know, Patty, living in LA, and I would say the stereotype of an LA witch is get a rose quartz and hold it over your heart. I've done witchcraft and the world is a happy place.
Right.
Um, so I see all the time the moment there is other natural elements beyond stones, like bones, it automatically
I love that word. You've invented a word.
I stole it from Disney. But but yeah,
It's okay.
automatically it automatically becomes dark or black or something like that. And the thing is that with Southern Conjure, with Hoodoo, it was born out of um I would say a very hard time in history. I mean, you can't deny it. Um, and and there was a need to fight back and resilience. So therefore, you see that in its magic. So I think that's a lot of the misconception that one being that it only it only lives for one culture, it's only available to one culture, and that it is dark. So I really wanted to shift that perspective.
That is good. I can't wait to put now one thing I do know, you're a teacher, you're a practitioner, you do all sorts of things. And what I know of the years I've known you, that you're really good at making magic feel doable. Um, and being able to bring it into everyday life. Is that just your living and that's how you're able to teach people? Because that's important to me as well.
Yeah, I think I believe it's a bit of that, and it's also, I'm not gonna lie, like, I have ADHD, I'm busy, I get overwhelmed, and for me as a kid, when you look at practices like Wicca or anything like that, there's so much structure, right? I've been initiated, I've gone through the process of a Wiccan coven, which I love. But I know that on my own, I'm like, this is very difficult. Setting up an altar and giving time for a practice, and as you know, like you're a busy person. So when I started looking historically and I started breaking it down, I'm like, oh wow, not all magic is up at 6 a.m. chanting to the gods and doing a circle of five on the fifth hour of Jupiter. Because I'm kind of a lazy witch. So once I realized, oh, there are real practices that are easy and just as meaningful, I think that's where I kind of shifted perspective and I brought it to people that for the most part were kind of scared. They're like, I don't know that I can commit to magic or I don't know that I can commit to witchcraft because, you know, I'm not religious or I don't want to believe in a deity or worship a deity or like I don't have the tools for an athame and a ritual and a chalice. So I think that also shifted how I teach too. So like, we have I'm sure if you look at any spell book, right, you'll be like, you need one ritual dagger and your cauldron needs to be put on the left and turned to 180 degrees. Whereas like in me, I'm like, you need a sprig of lavender, spit in this candle, and go.
Yeah. Yeah. Butter knife and yeah, no. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And honestly, I love your book too because your book is very similar to mine in the sense that you're telling people like, you know what, you don't need a huge budget. And I would say that I'm sure you've seen this too. It's like I do feel like sometimes, especially now, I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to where they feel that they're priced out of being a witch, that they think being a witch requires, having a huge income to buy these crazy, like, I hate to say that money is a part of it, but the amount of people that I've spoken to that said that they can't afford it because they can't afford X, Y, and Z, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so opposite of the truth of what like you said, find it in your backyard. You can
Yeah.
make wand in your backyard. You can
Yes. Yes. And one thing too that I also added in this book, that you don't really see is substitutions. Because another thing that I noticed, oh, I bought your book, where like not necessarily to me, but like as a kid, like, oh, I bought this book, but I can't do half the spells because I don't have half the ingredients.
where do I get eye of newt?
Exactly.
Yeah, right. And Virgin's up
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. So, what is one we know times are crazy right now, we're not gonna get every but what is one thing again, because again, you live a beautiful life, you're a manifester, you create the life you wanna live, you're very successful life in that
Oh,
way.
you.
What and again, I've always admired it, you and who you are, and that you do what you want to do. What is one practice from either your work or your belief system that people can go, well, I want that. I feel like I'm a slave to what the world is or to what my job is. Is there a certain a ritual or a practice or even a spell or an awareness that you think that
Yeah.
would be a good starting point for somebody?
Honestly, I would say like a road opener and like road opener, cord cutting. I think that's something that has helped me a lot. The simple idea of removing the ties that bind you. Because I will say, and I'm sure you get this too, when we walk in this world, we are very empathetic. We are open to everything. And there was a time where I went through a really dark time because I felt like I was accumulating everyone's um uh muck. And I think COVID obviously got a lot of people very depressed. There are a lot of people that get angry and jealous, or the biggest one for me is pessimism.
Mm.
I think I'm a Taurus, so the moment you tell me that I can't do something, I'm gonna do the opposite. So for me, I would say it's a cord cutting. So like any cord cutting work, any road opening work to kind of help you channel and break through, like the easiest one that I tell people too, like even though I'm not a crystal person, I always kind of find myself back to crystal. So maybe I am. Oh, we discussed this too, Patty. Remember I told you you're not a crystal person? You and I walked into a crystal shop and you were like,
Yeah,
Dylan, I think you're a crystal person.
sure, following you, Dylan. Yeah.
You're a crystal person. But like, tiger's eye is very good for like courage. That's something that has helped me. Black tourmaline, which is so good for grounding. So that paired with any workings with cord cutting, or like road opening has really helped me a lot and like has helped my ego and like helped me push through. And honestly, another sense of magic too, whenever someone tells you no, or you shouldn't do this, or you can't do this, if you just kind of flip that and feed off of it instead of take it personally, that has always helped me.
Yeah.
And honestly, in my book, I thank all the people who told me no.
See, I agree whole it's all those that didn't do it, it's like, "I'll show you," it's how we deal with it.
Exactly.
What do you mean I can't do that? I absolutely love that. So, what's funny, even and I agree with those 2. Tiger's Eye is such a beautiful one for and black tourmaline, again, that is my best protection one. Again, we both do paranormal.
Yes,
We
and we've
recently
talked.
did
Yes,
paranormal together with Sam and Colby, and they're
yes,
influencers, YouTubers, Sam and Colby, and we got to work together with, Ashley, the Pythian priestess, and
yes.
that was like the funnest however many days that was.
Oh my God, can I just say the three of us, we had so much fun. And
So
honestly,
much fun.
like, while the experience itself was super spooky, it was nice to get to know each other as actual people
Yeah.
outside of that. Like, we really connected and we all had different backgrounds, and the similarities that we had was just pretty awesome.
Yes, it was amazing, and again, and that's where I had black tourmaline, again, that protection thing,
Yes.
so, do you do a lot with paranormal stuff? Because I know that's gotten witchier and witchier. It used to be just the
Yeah.
tech nerd, ghost hunter people, but again, the spirituality, the occultism is getting involved in it, so I know we're both getting involved in it.
Yes. I would say so. Another weird thing. So, um, this goes back to like misconceptions and I think stigma. So I've always had a connection to spirits. I would say before witchcraft, it was probably mediumship or ghosts. I lost a childhood dog when I was a kid, and to this day, I remember that dog being in my bed and alive. And that's like when someone's like, "What was your first ghost story experience?" It was that. But after like I went to New Orleans and I studied spiritualism and I would sit in these seances that Bloody Mary would do, and they were phenomenal. And I would pick up on stuff, and I've done Bloody Mary since I was 17. So in this world and attending classes and stuff, um, I always knew that I had mediumship skills or that I was a medium to some sense, but I was very turned off by the amount of people that use that for clout or were very dramatic. And I guess I kind of shied away from voicing that because I didn't want to be associated with those mediums or like
Right.
those psychics, right? But
Yeah.
once I realized that in witchcraft, like witchcraft and spirits kind of go hand in hand, you know? And I do my own seances. I do it a little different. Actually, probably similar to you. I've seen you use more ritualistic, more magical. And yes, so to your question to the paranormal, yes, but I do not, like someone comes to me and they're like, "Do you have an EMP player or whatever?" I don't know what that is.
EMF.
And then see, I'm like, your MP3 player. No.
Yeah, I still have one. I've been organizing, yes,
Yeah.
MP3. It's like, "What's
So like
this?"
I'm not familiar with that, but I do love going in and and more I'm kind of like going into these spaces and picking up like, yeah, I there are spirits tied here, and I throw bones, and that to me is has always been a deep like to me it's like my spirit, like it's my spirit board.
And you are brilliant at it. Anybody
Oh,
wants to
thank
go check out the Sam and Colby episode? We were somewhere in Massachusetts. We never knew where we
we
were. We were blindfolded. We didn't know where we were.
yes. I still
uh,
forget the name of the house, the Spencer Mackey, the Mackey, no, the
MK,
MK.
MK,
See,
don't know. But your bone throwing is amazing. I mean, I'm a baby bone thrower. It is not my specialty. I'm more tarot. But what you were doing, you were just on fire. It was
thank you.
amazing how you laid it out and just
And
knew
y
what was going
and
on.
as you know, we both had no idea, and I didn't know the story, so I'm just reading the bones, and as they were people, right? I'm like, "Okay, this is the story that's laid out to me," so that is something that I'm very fortunate for because I do think, as you know, it's like a lot of people I'm sure you sometimes people are like, "Well, you shouldn't use tools to communicate with spirits, like, you have to know." I'm like, "That's not true."
Right.
Spirits communicate in various ways.
Right. No, and yeah, I think that's crazy too. It's like, why not? It's like you could wash dishes by hand, but if you're serving 20 people, use the dishwasher. It's a tool. It helps us. Why not? But no, I was so impressed with your bone throwing because you were just right on. Because this was like a murder mystery. They brought three of us mediums. None of us knew where we were. Something had taken place. None of us knew what it was. And we were like, crime drama. We each went in separately, not together, and we kind of told a story. That was really fun. Hey everybody, in case things have moved around a little, it is not the spirits. Dylan had to move to his phone. It's a technology thing, but we are back. It was his EMF AMP meter. That's what it
That's what
was.
it
So
was.
if it looks different, it is different. It's not the ghosts or the spirits. So speaking of spirits, let's go back into your magical practice because I know you're a spellcaster and a magician and things. And speaking of tools, not needing tools and people to, what is your favorite magical tool? Do you have one?
Yes. I mean, I would say it's probably bones. I
Yeah.
think they because here's the thing, they can be used, you can read with them. Um, I can't tell you how many bones I end up giving away because I'll do a reading for someone. I was like, "Ooh, you need this," you know? And aside from being used for divination, there are also charms and talismans.
Yeah.
So that would probably be my favorite. And then, I just have to say that, while I say the word bones, that's just kind of like an umbrella term for the different curio. Like, I have roots in there, I have coins, I have, various trinkets that make up my bone thing. But, or actually, I really love I guess the tangible, like, amulets and charms. That's what I love in my magical practice. Like, I have my Ankh, that I got in Egypt that I've had for the past, like, 5, 6 years, that had blessed there, and I just see it as a very magical, talisman, you
No,
know?
I am very much on sigils, talismans, and pieces
Oh,
too
I
on
look at
on
you,
that.
you're decked out.
I'm going very light today, but I deck out. It's like, yes, I'm gonna have one from every damn belief system. I'm just gonna be covering the board here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually I was gonna have you explain for anybody who didn't know what bones were, throwing bones, but you kind of did that. It's cool,
Yeah,
and you
it's
throw this little things and they tell a story.
They do, and I mean, not to I do have a book on throwing bones that you can also find too on the Amazon, and I think that's published by Weiser. But yeah, it's I think it's wonderful because it's very tangible, and sometimes people don't know, like, oh, the 7 of Wands, but like I can look at a little bat charm and I can relate to it and be like, okay, like bats use a location to do X, Y, and Z to find their prey. So this is about you finding your way in the dark. So you can associate the meanings to the person and the place and what's happening.
Yeah, that's what when I first put together, again, I am not the bone thrower you are. I'm not gonna say that's my main specialty, but I went through my little tchotchke the junk tour that, oh, there's this little heart. A heart is perfect. There's love. Oh, I found a little frog. Oh, this means that, exactly that. And you created this little thing, and then they tell a story.
Exactly, and you'll find, I'm sure you'll find as you do readings with it or whatever, like, sometimes, you're just reading the story, and you'll have the person across from you be like, "How could you possibly know?" And I'm like, "They told me."
That is interesting. So how did you go into that? Was just part of your training, one of your divination
It
trainings?
was, yeah, it was honestly, so it was in New Orleans. Bloody Mary, she threw bones, and then there was a woman that I saw, she was outside the shop, Voodoo Authentica, and she was throwing bones. And at the time, I wasn't living there. I was 17. I was just there to, like, as a tourist, and she was like, I think it was like 15, $20, and I didn't put too much stock into it, and I sat down, and she threw her bones, and she told me things that no one could ever possibly know. And when I looked at these bones and I saw, I was like, "Oh my god." And, like, how she had a bone that represented my father, she had a bone that represented this, and then she was like, "You're the bull, you're stubborn, and this means that with the with the bison tooth, I'm a Taurus," you know? So, like, once that happened, I was like, "Oh, I need to do this."
That's awesome. I love that. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's go back to our crazy world. What
Mm.
does being a witch in today's world mean to you as a practice, a belief system?
Okay, so my honest answer, power. I
Good
think
ass.
it's control. It's to me, I would say as a kid, and I say that I think witchcraft saved my life. I was very my parents dealt with addiction. I was in a very inconsistent family household. I lived between my grandparents and everything, and a lot of people are like, witchcraft is connecting to nature, witchcraft is this. And honestly, my first book that my dad got me was Mastering the Witchcraft by Paul Hewson. Probably not the book to get a 13-year-old dealing with anger issues. But I think I read that, and it said witchcraft is the manipulation of energy to gain some for a personal gain. I think I read that and I was like, I don't have any control in my life right now. So I'm gonna use witchcraft. And I really do think witchcraft has helped a lot of people because it helps them get their life in control.
Right. I think that is the best answer out there. Because again, the world is trying to take away your power. You're working with clients. We both work with clients. It's like
Yes,
people give away their power to other
they do.
people. They give it away to limiting belief systems. They give it away to fear all the time. It's like, take it back. You don't have the
Religion.
power. What did you give it away to? Take it back.
Exactly.
And
And I always tell people, I'm like, if you look at history, because religion, Christianity, dogma aside, what really scared people about witches was hubris, that they had power,
yes,
you know, that they did not, that a witch did not have to check in with the Almighty. The witch worked with the Almighty, you know? And I think that was something that really, like, it changed my perspective of gods. It changed my perspective of deities. People are like, it's not, oh, I worship Kate. It's like I venerate her, but no, like she's almost like my teacher, like and I think that is something that has helped, with my clients. I tell them all the time, I'm sure you go all the time where people want you to do spell work. And I usually like, I will do it, but I always encourage them. I was like, if you want the results, you should be the one doing it.
yeah, me too. I at least make them do it with me. It's like I
Exactly.
will never have that passion and that you have. You
Right.
know how much you want this. I will do some of the workings and do this, but
Yeah.
eh, I
You
like
got to put your energy, you know,
it. Oh, I
you
love
know.
that. So, okay, people are probably going to be falling in love with you right now.
Mm,
And I want to talk about, I know we're recording this a little before it comes out. And you've had some of the most beautiful magical shops, occult shops I've ever seen. And you may be having one again soon. And maybe even by the time we have this, I don't know. But if
Yes.
people want to know more about you, both your book, other books you have, your practice, how do people find you, Mr. Dylan?
Yes, so you can find me on the gram, at Mystic Dylan Official. One day I will do TikTok. I'm on TikTok, but I'm not like you, Patty. You're very good.
I'm not that good. I try. I'm not. I try.
You are.
I
And
have
then,
help.
my website is mysticdylanthewitch.com because someone has stolen Mystic Dylan.
No.
I mean, like, I don't know if they stole it, but Mystic Dylan is not available, which is so weird. Uh, so it's mysticdylanthewitch.com. And I'm in Los Angeles, and I do have a launch party for my book happening June 13th. That will be at Slasher World on Melrose. Patty, you are a guest on
I
my
can't
VIP
wait.
list. And it'll be cool. There's gonna be we're gonna do a ritual. There will be one of my snakes there for snake handling and photo ops. Um, and we are gonna have some actual authentic Cajun food. We're gonna have a food truck there. And they'll be dancing and partying and all the good stuff.
That is beautiful. And your book comes out soon. When does your book come
Yes,
out?
my book I believe is out June 6th or the
That's
yeah,
beautiful. And it's
very
well
exciting.
until it'll be available everywhere.
Yeah, it'll be available everywhere.
That is beautiful. Well, you guys like him, follow him, work with him, let him throw your bones.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations on the new book. I can't wait to get
Yes.
it.
Oh,
And hopefully we get to go play with ghosts together again
yes,
soon too. I
please,
would
or at
love
least
that.
have dinner.
Oh, dinner
Dinner
with or
with
without ghosts. Yes, let's at least do that. And again, it's right up there. You could look. Our beautiful producer Rob is putting up. You want to go see us play with ghosts? Sam and Colby. And other than that, thank you for bringing your magic to the witching hour.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any last parting words of wisdom you'll have for everybody?
Um, you can find swamp witchcraft everywhere. And trust your local witches and know that that plant you see on the ground or in the tree probably has magical properties and can help you.
Perfect wisdom. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mystic Dylan.
Thank
Thank you for the
you.
witching hour.